and still, Joseph Parker.
You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, you political bastard.
I'm not being funny. What the f*** is going on?
Alright, so today we are going to be looking back at a rather boring and would-be forgettable World Heavyweight title fight. That being Joseph Parker vs Hughie Fury, which took place in September of 2017. Now I say would-be forgettable fight, as the aftermath of this fight did actually make it somewhat memorable. So at this point in time, Joseph Parker held the WBO Heavyweight Championship. Just to give the order of events of how we got to this point, Joseph Parker won that title against fellow undefeated fighter Andy Ruiz in December of 2016. Parker won via majority decision in what was a vacant title fight in Parker's hometown of Auckland, New Zealand. So the last WBO heavyweight champion before Joseph Parker was actually Hughie Fury's cousin, Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, who famously ended the long reign of unified WBO, WBA and IBF champion Vladimir Klitschko in November 2015. Fury was actually stripped of the IBF heavyweight title straight away for signing to rematch Klitschko rather than fight his IBF mandatory. Then of course the rematch with Klitschko did not happen after Tyson Fury spiraled into a depression, gained a lot of weight and tested positive for cocaine. So he was forced to officially relinquish the WBO and WBA titles in October of 2016, which of course brought us to Parker vs Ruiz. In terms of Parker's vacant title fight victory over Ruiz, as you'd imagine with a majority decision, it was a very close fight and Ruiz thought he deserved the nod, and some fans saw this as a hometown decision victory for Parker. Due to how close the fight between Parker and Ruiz was, Parker's first WBO heavyweight title defense was looking to be a rematch with Ruiz, as Ruiz himself of course pushed for this and Parker was in favour of it at first. However, the possibility of a rematch between the two was ruled out by Joseph Parker's promoter a few weeks after the fight. So Joseph Parker's WBO mandatory at the time was David Haye, but Haye was occupied with the Tony Bellew fight, so Parker's first defense of that WBO heavyweight title was indeed looking to be against Hughie Fury, the younger cousin of the man who relinquished the belt Parker now held. Hughie Fury had actually won the WBO Intercontinental title in his last fight to that point, against Fred Cassie in April of 2016. After Hughie Fury was basically made the new WBO mandatory due to Haye being unavailable, Team Parker won the WBO purse bid for that fight with Hughie. So Joseph Parker vs Hughie Fury was set to take place on April 1st of 2017 in Parker's hometown of Auckland, New Zealand. But due to seemingly travel complications on Team Fury's side of things, the fight date was actually delayed to May 6th. The original issue seemed to be Hughie Fury's father and trainer Peter Fury being unable to get a visa due to his criminal past. However, it was resolved when Peter Fury was granted a temporary visa, which allowed him to be in New Zealand for a period that started several weeks before the new fight date and a few days after. But after that issue got resolved, the fight was cancelled or postponed again less than 2 weeks before that May 6th date. The Fury camp cited a lower back injury as the reason Hughie could not go on with the fight. They alleged that Hughie underwent a medical assessment due to an ongoing lower back injury, and the doctor said Hughie would not be able to train for 3 to 4 weeks. Team Fury received a lot of stick for this at the time. It was seen as either ducking from their part, or even using shady tactics to hold out and try to get the fight rescheduled and to take place in England, as opposed to New Zealand. So Joseph Parker would in fact not be fighting Hughie Fury in his first WBO title defense. So with essentially 2 WBO mandatories not being available to fight Parker, the WBO allowed Parker to make a voluntary defense with one of their top 15 heavyweights to replace Hughie Fury for that May 6th date in Auckland. Joseph Parker's new opponent ended up being the number 14 ranked Razvan Kajanu. In that fight, Parker would defeat the Romanian contender by unanimous decision by a fairly wide gap on the cards to remain WBO heavyweight champion of the world. So after all that, with the fight being postponed, then postponed again, or essentially cancelled as Parker had to fight a new opponent, Hughie Fury still maintained his WBO mandatory spot. At the point of Parker's title defense against Kajanu, Hughie Fury already hadn't fought in over a year since his WBO Intercontinental title win. But lo and behold, the agreement was finally made in June, and Joseph Parker was to be defending his title against Hughie Fury on the 23rd of September 2017 in Hughie Fury's hometown of Manchester, England. Now it's funny because I called this a would-be forgettable fight because it was boring in the ring, but it was the aftermath that was memorable. But there was also a couple of viral moments in the build-up to this fight, so I will touch on that before finally getting to what happened in the ring. The making of that fight was also rather eventful, wasn't it? I didn't mean to waffle on about it that much, I must say, but yeah, the fight was finally official after all those trials and tribulations in making it happen. Okay, so at the fight week press conference, we got an iconic rant from Peter Fury when Joseph Parker's promoter David Higgins interrupted the introduction of the presser to have a go about the fact that the elected referee and one of the elected judges for the fight were British rather than neutral. But Hughie's dad didn't take kindly to Higgins' conduct, or lack thereof of course.
In the UK and 1699 in euros in Ireland.
We want to hear all this from you in a minute, because all of you've done is squeal all the time. Really? Squealing like a pig. You know what?
Gentlemen, you'll get
That's what you do. You're lucky I'm talking. You'll sell more TV because I fire up.
Gentlemen, you'll get your
fucking
chance.
saver, mate.
You'll get your chance.
Hey, guess what? You can't win. Hey, if it comes to the referee, you can't win. Take another line.
You will have your opportunity. Everybody will have their opportunity to ask questions of everybody on this top table. Of everybody on this top table in due course. Now is not the time or place for this. Okay.
And anything you want to fucking do about it with your bodyguards, come here. Listen, who gives a fuck about you anyway? Go on, Snow White. Hey, take a fucking line. Who gives a fuck about you? Or your fucking bodyguards? You come from the street, fuck off. Dickhead. Squealing like a pig. Don't belong in fighting circles, let the men fight, fucking dummy.
Okay.
Mad one there, innit? It's Peter Fury's brother John Fury, the father of Tyson, who has gone on to be known for ranting and raving, especially by casual fans due to Tommy Fury's recent fights. But Peter is the real bad boy of the brothers, man. Funnily enough, not long after this presser, Peter Fury and David Higgins had a joint interview on IFL TV to clear things up. Now, word on the street is that Peter Fury roughed up Higgins behind the scenes and forced him to apologise on camera. And then the very next day after the presser was of course the weigh-in. And during the weigh-in, we'd see an unprovoked push from Hughie Fury cause a big old pull and a push between Team Fury and Team Parker.
Be careful!
So now I've got all that out of the way, let's get into this world title fight between the two young heavyweights, the 25-year-old Joseph Parker versus the 23-year-old Hughie Fury. Well, on the day of the fight, Hughie Fury was actually only 5 days after turning 23, so if he were to go on and win the world heavyweight title against Parker in this fight, he would have become the 4th youngest world heavyweight champion of all time, behind Mike Tyson, Floyd Patterson and Muhammad Ali. He would have overtaken Joe Louis in that number 4 spot of the all-time youngest heavyweight champions list. So I suppose if Hughie Fury could win the title at such a young age, it would have been, let's say, shades of Ali. More on that later. But yeah, let me run down how the actual fight played out now. So it's established from the off in round 1 that Parker is the aggressor with Fury on the back foot. They end up in a clinch whenever Parker comes close, and Fury is trying to pop shot Parker on the back foot. Round 2, Parker's still the one coming forward, but both men are completely missing with jabs, just pouring with them out of range. And when Parker actually tries to push the action at the end of the round, they just end up in the clinch. Round 3, we see Hughie trying to land the odd single counter shot when he's backed up. A couple got through, but these instances are few and far between. So round 4, we've got more of the same thing. Hughie did land a little pop shot again in this round. And just to note, these counters from Fury are probably the most significant single shots landed in the fight at this point, but Parker is still the aggressor and more active, so make of that what you will. So round 5, we see referee Marcus McDonald quite involved in the action, as much as he already had been from the clinching. Parker was warned early in the round about leading in with his head. Then of course McDonald was having to break more clinches. Then Hughie Fury was throwing more missing jabs, but actually got a warning from Marcus McDonald about slapping with the back of the glove. So we see where we stand from an entertainment standpoint if this is the most significant thing to talk about here. Now round 6, we've got more of the same stuff with the clinching and missed jabs. Parker of course going forward, but Hughie Fury trying to counter. So halfway through the fight, yeah, the story of the fight is Parker being the aggressor at all times, but Fury's counters being the most significant single shots. So going into round 7, what can I say? More of the same. Parker pursuing Fury and Fury just clinching and retreating. Parker was looking to go to the body a bit at the end of round 7, which is something new in the fight, I guess. Then in the 8th, we've got Fury running and attempting single counter shots again. Now the highlights make Fury's counter punching look decent, but watching the fight in full, the significant counter attempts are so few and far between that it might not really stick in the mind of the judges. But from Parker's side of things, there were times, especially in the 8th, when he was coming forward, naturally due to how much Fury was retreating, but Parker would just stand there and not throw anything himself. Parker rushes in with a combination early in round 9 and it looks like a couple of these shots get through. And then as the round went on, Fury started to let his right hand go a bit more and lead with it rather than counter. And yeah, I'll say the 9th round is the most eventful round in the fight to this point, and that's saying something. It's probably how the worst round of a half decent fight looks. So in the 10th round now, what do you know? more clinching, and Fury stayed on the back foot trying to capitalise on Parker's desperate entries into range. In the 11th, we nearly got a couple of exchanges, but what do you know, they ended up in the clinch. And as for the 12th and final round, so early on, Parker finally landed a clean right hand that got the attention of the crowd. He landed another decent right hand not too long after, but Fury tied him up straight after. Very clinch heavy approach from Fury here. And yeah, ultimately the fight went the 12 round distance and the misery was over, but the official scorecards were still to come, of course. So yeah, just a dead fight that. My play-by-play description did enough to portray that, so I won't say too much more before we get to the official cards. But yeah, very clinch heavy approach from Fury. Obviously he's the taller man by a good bit, so it's easy to tie up the shorter man with those longer arms. A lot of retreating from Fury all fight as well, but from Parker's side of things, he's not gone on to be known as the most fun fighter himself, or totally innocent when it comes to clinching, mind you. So it's on him as well that the fight was like this. As much as he was the one going forward, it doesn't mean he was applying effective enough pressure to cut the ring off and land clean shots. He was more fluctuating between either just following him or rushing in mindlessly. The criteria is effective aggression, and just because you're not the one on the back foot, it doesn't mean you satisfy that criteria. Now, I'm not scoring the fight. I'm not saying who I think won, not that I thought even man won. I'm not going to put myself in that spot, but it's a toughie to call and there's not too much in it for the judges to decipher from. I'm sure a good amount of you have seen this fight already, and a good few haven't, and to those who haven't seen it, I'm not even going to tell you to go and watch it and score it for yourself. I mean, if you're really curious, go ahead, but it is a very boring fight to watch. But of course, if you're really driven by getting to the bottom of who deserved the nod, then you'll be engaged by the element of scoring the fight, I guess. And also, good luck finding a good quality version of the fight with English commentary. I'm just after watching the fight in Russian commentary. Okay, so after that hard-fought, action-packed 12-round war, here's what the official judges' scorecards read.
After 12 rounds of boxing, we go to our judges at ringside. Judge Rocky Young sees the contest 114-114.
Remis, pierwszy z sędziów.
Judge Terry O'Connor and Judge John Madvis both see the contest at 118-110. It is a majority decision in favour of our winner. And still...
A jednak zwycięża w tej walce obrońca tytułu Joseph Parker. Uznali jednak dwaj sędziowie, że za mało zrobił w tym pojedynku Hughie Fury. No i ta...
So yeah, aside from whoever you thought won, 118-110 either way is a bad card. And obviously those two 118-110 cards went in the way of the reigning champion Joseph Parker, and against the hometown fighter and challenger Hughie Fury. Now, as much as we don't like draws in a heavyweight title fight, the 114-114 card is more indicative of what played out on the ring. It's always a funny one when scorecards are that different in one fight. It looks like Hughie Fury thought he was getting robbed when the 114-114 card was being read. Then Parker shook his head a bit when hearing the two 118-110 cards, then looked surprised when he got the win by such a wide gap on enemy territory in such an uneventful fight. So Joseph Parker was indeed still the WBO heavyweight champion of the world, much to the chagrin of Team Fury as we saw when the winner was announced. They say you have to really win it off the champion to get the nod on the cards, don't they? Which Hughie Fury certainly didn't do here. But that's not actually part of the scoring criteria of any of the major governing bodies. I'm not saying I thought Hughie Fury should have won, I'm just pointing that out. But with the uproar from Team Fury after the fight, one would have thought Fury was battering Parker all around the ring and we just saw the worst robbery ever. So let's take a look at that now. So in the ring after the cards were read, we got this rant from Hughie Fury's uncle John Fury.
Whatever the British and the government's got against us, it must be serious. Because they've tried everything, apart from shooters. A little lad's fighting his heart out here and get robbed in his own town. And British judges, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves, you political bastards.
So yeah, that's an iconic one. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, you political bastards. We see that in memes all over social media still to this day. I wonder how many people know all of that context to it though. Then you know now if you didn't already. In terms of what John is talking about though, all of the politics and what the government had against the Furies, I'll be honest, I'm not sure exactly what he's referring to, but the Furies were involved in a couple of controversies for the last few years to that point. So to make an educated guess, as a result of this supposed controversial decision, he is suggesting that the powers that be in boxing are conspiring against the Furies and trying to keep them from world title success. But other issues that led to these conspiracy claims might be the ongoing UCAD case with Tyson Fury and his suspension by the British Boxing Board of Control. You know, there's also the charging of Tyson and Hughie Fury for both testing positive for the performance-enhancing drug nandrolone. They were charged in June of 2016 for a positive finding from the drug test taken between February and March of 2015. And both Tyson and Hughie deny any wrongdoings amid the scandal, i.e. they claim to have not taken any form of PEDs intentionally. And I'm sure there's a few other things that occurred over the years where the Furies felt they were being wronged. You know, there's a lot of Tyson Fury scandals that took place during his lengthy layoff from boxing, and we don't need to go into all of that. You know, John might also be alluding to Tyson Fury losing hold of the world titles, but that was all fair, so I'd hope this is not part of John Fury's complaints here. I know the IBF stripped Tyson Fury straight away, but we know the IBF don't hold out for rematches, and Fury did sign to rematch Klitschko, so it is what it is. That happens to everyone. I mean, I don't know. With claims of the government having something against them, I'm just trying to theorise what Big John could be referring to here. Now, I'm not saying that I thought Joseph Parker won, but claiming that the government have something against them after Hughie Fury didn't get the nod after a performance like that is rather absurd. And Big John's talk of the British judges, it's almost as if they expected a hometown decision but didn't get it. Also, just to note, Tyson Fury had a run in the ring at BBB of C boss Robert Smith, but unfortunately there is no footage available where what Tyson Fury is saying can be clearly heard. But yeah, a full family crash out from the Furies here. Yeah, so there was more post-fight talk that alluded to the supposed conspiracies against the Fury family. This was in a sort of backstage post-fight press conference filmed by IFL TV, in which Hughie's father and trainer Peter Fury and his promoter Mick Hennessy were very vocal in their dismay with the decision. Peter Fury was talking about how Parker basically landed nothing and was missing all of his shots for the most part, and the judges must have given it to him on the fact alone that Parker was coming forward, which is kinda true. Whether or not you think that warrants him getting the win on the cards, that is probably the reason the judges gave it to Parker. Peter Fury was also saying how Parker looks like he knew he lost after the fight, and he also said that the appointed judges were basically swayed to go with the foreign fighter so that British boxing doesn't get the reputation for being corrupt. Basically a reverse hometown decision. So yeah, more talk of politics here. Then came Mick Hennessy's iconic rant. Look, this video has already been longer than intended, but I've got to play this whole thing, man, I've got to.
We're going to be putting in an appeal straight away. We're going to protest this, and as strong as we can, we're going to get our lawyers behind it. Me, I see it a lot clearer than that. I thought it was disgraceful. I thought that was a masterclass. I thought you just do not see masterclasses by 23-year-olds like that. I thought he wiped the floor with him. There were 2 rounds I gave clear to Parker. I cannot believe what I see tonight. What happened to the art of boxing? Do they score hitting fresh air? And do they score hitting elbows and arms? What on earth was everyone looking at there? What happened to the art of boxing?
Even Kevin Barry, his trainer, come over to me, he went, "That's a robbery." He said, "We thought we was lucky to get this."
Like you said, the body language told it all. I mean, I've never sat and felt so comfortable winning a fight in my life. I didn't even think for a split second that there could even be a dodgy decision. I'm sat there thinking, he's just wiped the floor with Joseph Parker. He's a super talent, 23. He's wiped the floor with him. I'm sitting there, never felt so comfortable. Listen, we're not all idiots. Billy Joe's sitting there, Tyson's sitting there, everyone's celebrating. Everyone thought it was an easy fight. Where's the controversy? I'm not being funny, what the fuck is going on? I mean, come on, let's tell the truth here. Let's everyone tell the truth. There's something going on and something behind bullshit decisions like that.
Would you get a rematch on the back of that, Mick?
That's got to be a worst case scenario. I want to get that overturned. I want to find out who's behind bullshit like that. I just like what is happening to this boxing game. I mean, the footwork, how light he glided round that ring, hitting him with jabs at will, touching him, explosive with it. It was like shades of Ali the way he was moving. Why can't that be appreciated? What the hell is going on?
Have you spoken to Robert Smith about it?
I spoke to Robert Smith in the ring there, and I said, "What's going on? Who's behind this bullshit? Where's this coming from?" To me, that's corruption at the highest level in boxing. And I know it's a strong word, but I'm telling you now, there's forces at work around this game.
Do you think it's an agenda against the Furies?
100%. Definitely. Like, you know, Terry O'Connor has obviously buckled under the pressure. He really has. I mean, I'm lost. I'm absolutely lost. I've seen it all now. I've really seen it all. A beautiful talent like that, you know, boxing, an absolute masterclass. Everything Peter said in the game plan, he done. He absolutely done it. He was hitting him with clean right uppercuts, clean right hands. The jab all night didn't leave him alone. I mean, he just, you know, his engine was brilliant to the end. like there was a few times where Joseph Parker looked explosive, and he put combinations together. But I'm sat there. He's my fighter, so I worry about him. And I'm sat there, and as the combinations are flying, I've seen him slip this way, whiz over his shoulder, slip under it, roll under it. The odd one might glance off his elbow or his arm. How are they scoring them shots?
Mick, do you think this agenda runs deeper than just tonight?
Well, listen, we know what we encounter en route to these fights. Putting these fights together, we've had a lot of things thrown at us, a lot of obstacles put in our way. There is obviously, from the whole thing in Dusseldorf, there is obviously, you know, some force going on to try and stop us in our tracks. I think so. I believe.
Boy, I don't want to dissect all of that. I should just leave that rant there to marinate. But Shades of Ali is insane. Comparing Hughie Fury to Ali. I mean, Hughie Fury is a good boxer in his own right, but I mean, it's fair to say Muhammad Ali might have had a slightly higher punch output than we saw from Hughie Fury in that fight against Parker, along with the many other ways that Hughie Fury is incomparable to Muhammad Ali. I mean, unless Mick Hennessy was saying that Hughie's performance was shades of Cash Ali, I don't know. No, that's diabolical. And yeah, in terms of the conspiracy talk, again, as I mentioned earlier, if John Fury was alluding to Tyson Fury being stripped of his belt when talking about the politics against the Furies, it's a bit of a reach, as that would happen to any other fighter. But it's a bit of the same here from Mick Hennessy, the talk of Dusseldorf. Yeah, there was the controversy with the ring there or whatever, but the Klitschko brothers were doing that to all of their challenges in Germany, man. Nothing new with Fury going over to Germany. Just to note though, when Mick Hennessy was talking about the glancing blows from Parker not being scoring shots as Fury was just slipping them, well, I actually agree with this. But as much as the judges ought to be able to discern that Parker's shots weren't landing clean, the ultimate point on Parker's side is that Fury himself didn't do enough to rack up a lot of points. So there were actually times when those missing shots from Parker was all the judges had to go off. Now in terms of Mick Hennessy's attempt to get the decision overturned, well, the WBO Vice President John Duggan backed the official judge's decision to call Parker the winner on the night. Thus, no investigation was carried out and the result being potentially overturned was not considered by the WBO. Joseph Parker remained the world heavyweight champion of their organisation. Hughie Fury's team also vowed to sue the WBO for supposed corruption as a result of the decision. No news came out about Hughie being paid any sort of settlement by the WBO after the fact. If they even did attempt to sue, it likely would have been unsuccessful, much like their attempt to have the decision overturned. So yeah, that was a bit mad, weren't it? All the uproar over a fight like that. Now look, I know you guys might hear my English accent and you're going to think I'm biased here, but there is a case for a Hughie Fury win. But no way was that a robbery though. And his team making conspiracy claims after a performance like that is absurd, as I said. He would have had to have been beaten up Parker badly to warrant that level of outburst. Mick Hennessy saying he mopped the floor with him is mental. I may even get flamed in the comments for saying that there is a case for a Hughie Fury W. And most people would have called it a robbery and a hometown decision if Fury did win. So on that note, maybe Peter Fury did have a bit of a point saying the judges gave it to the away fighter to not seem corrupt. But yeah, either way, we've seen fighters actually get robbed and not go to these lengths to get the decision overturned and stuff. So as I said, we got two golden memes out of this whole situation.
You ought to be ashamed of yourselves, you political bastards!
I'm not being funny, what the fuck is going on?
But this whole situation itself was actually a bit of a meme. So yeah, what do you guys think about that whole situation? I'm not even going to ask who you think won, because there'll be loads of people clicking on this video just to comment who they think won without even watching the video. But can we all agree that it was a judge's nightmare, to be fair? I know boxing judging has a specific criteria, so judging is not subjective, but there is a plethora of criteria to take into consideration, and the subjectivity comes as a result of people's varying prioritizations of the different elements of criteria, and this fight is a situation where each man is failing to satisfy the criteria in different ways. So in my opinion, whatever way it goes, it's not a robbery. And if you say the effectiveness of Parker's connected punches in round 12 alone trump all of Hughie's clean shots combined throughout the fight, well, that could be kind of true, but remember, the scoring is on a round for round basis. But yeah, I don't know, man, let me stop talking about the scoring. The point here is not the decision, but the overreaction to such a dead fight. Now, my analytics tell me that over half the people who come across my videos are from the US of A, and I get a feeling that not many Americans were interested in this fight despite it being the world heavyweight title fight, and they wouldn't know much about the controversial build-up and aftermath to this fight. So I wanted this to be a little fun one where I look back at a relatively obscure or forgotten series of events surrounding a boxing fight that was quite different and funny in a way. I say a little fun one, but this has gone on long a bit. In terms of going into all that detail, well, I know some of you will have seen the fight, and I didn't want to miss out anything major and come across like I'm painting a narrative. If I wanted to, I could have made a 6-odd minute video where I brushed over the build up to the fight, just said that Fury ran away for 12 rounds and showed a couple minutes of the fight to portray this, and then just laughed at the post-fight reaction. But I wanted to keep this informative, hence why my videos stay lengthy and girthy. But let me know if you guys want to see a video like this be more compacted. Imagine if Hughie got the nod though and then he went on to like be AJ and Wilder or something. We'd be living in a different world now. But in terms of what actually happened after this fight, Joseph Parker fought a unification fight against the unified WBA and IBF champion Anthony Joshua in March of 2018, and Parker lost by unanimous decision, losing his world title belt and of course failing to pick up the other two. And after Hughie Fury vs Joseph Parker, Hughie went back to domestic level for one fight and won the British heavyweight title and would not go on to defend that belt. Now remember, this 2017 fight was between a 25-year-old Joseph Parker and a 23-year-old Hughie Fury, so they're still fairly young now, 32 and 30 respectively. Now as of this recording, we know Joseph Parker is now having great career success as a result of the big heavyweight contenders fights being made by Turki Al Sheikh. Parker is coming off of a 5-fight win streak and back-to-back wins over Deontay Wilder and Zhilei Zhang of course, and his loss to AJ in 2018 is his last world title fight to this day. So many would argue that he now deserves a chance to regain gold. But after the AJ fight, Parker took a second consecutive loss to Dillian Whyte, then went on a decent comeback streak after those two back-to-back losses. Then that comeback trail was put to a halt after his brutal loss to Joe Joyce, but since that loss, his second comeback trail has of course completely revived his career, so maybe he just needs to stay away from England. As for Hughie Fury, well, he spent 2.5 years out of the ring due to various health problems, but he made his return in April of 2024 and has fought 2 more times since. He won all 3 of those comeback fights. So yeah, this was meant to be mainly set in the past, but seeing as I went on this long, I thought I might as well just mention what both men are doing now. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think about everything surrounding that fight between Hughie Fury and Joseph Parker, and let me know what you think is in store for each man's career in the near future as well. And you have been listening to O.M.E Boxing.